right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. My name is Alofa and I am the event coordinator for Samaritan Counseling Center, Hawaii, while Anissa is today's tech guru and the program director of NAMI Hawaii. Before I review our on-screen disclaimers, I'd like to take this time to remind everyone that you will need paper and colored pencils. One of those pencils will need to be black, but if you don't have a black colored pencil, you can just use a regular pencil. Also, when it comes time to share, please raise your hand. You can do so on Zoom by using the raise hand button, or if you are able and on camera, you can physically raise your hand. Now, moving forward, this workshop is for educational purposes only and is not therapy or treatment advice. Please consult your physician or a qualified healthcare provider if you have specific mental health concerns. Also, this is being live streamed on the NAMI Facebook page, and we are recording the workshop so we can upload it to the SCCH YouTube channel later. If you would prefer, you are welcome to change your name on Zoom to protect your privacy. And as a part of our Creative Coping Summer Series, we will be offering a booklet compiling all of the work created and submitted by our attendees. This will be released after the series concludes in August. After today's workshop, I will send out a link that will allow you to submit your work if you choose to do so. This is optional. Last but not least, please keep in mind that we want to create a safe and supportive space where people are free to share their stories and questions and receive understanding and compassion. Now for a little bit about us. Samaritan Counseling Center Hawaii is a nonprofit organization that provides professional, accessible mental health counseling sensitive to the spiritual traditions of individuals, families, and communities in Hawaii, regardless of their ability to pay. We also coordinate community events like this one to provide mental health education, strengthen resilience, and help reduce the stigma of mental illness. On the other hand, we have NAMI Hawaii, which provides free support groups and classes for both peers in recovery and family members who love them. If you'd like to learn more about what's offered at these organizations, visit namihawaii.org or SamaritanCounselingCenterHawaii.org. Now, with all that covered, I will pass it over to our hosts, Nidhi Chabora and N.J. Moses, the creators of the Self-Discovery Through Art program.
Good morning, my fellow Zoomers, and welcome to this session on creative coping. NJ and I are the co-founders of Self-Discovery Through Art, a nonprofit organization in Hilo, Hawaii. Our vision is to strengthen and improve and nurture the mental health of all people using the arts as medicine. Having said that, I'm going to turn it over to NJ, who is my art facilitator.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you brought your colored pencils and a piece of white paper, computer paper. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to fold our paper. If we could have the slide too, please. We're going to fold our paper in half. In the art world, we call this hamburger. And we're going to fold it in half again, called hot dog. So if we could please fold your white paper, hamburger, and hot dog, you will then have 4 rectangles. In the top left rectangle, please write check in small at the top. The bottom rectangle, please write check out. On the other side of the paper, put a 1 and then a 2. If you would please do that now.
Anissa, if you can switch to that slide, the second slide. There we go.
All right, I think we should have that pretty much done. Everyone has their colored pencils, I assume. Let's switch to the next slide, please. We are going to do a brief check-in and check-out. It's a feelings activity. You don't have to be an artist. Don't worry about that. You can use 1, 2, or 3 colored pencils of your choice. Whatever colors call out to you. You're going to make a abstract, or what we call non-objective doodle. You're going to make a doodle. And when you get done, you're going to finish up by labeling your current feeling. Now, see the little example on the bottom there? It says no hearts, no teardrops, smile faces, recognizable geometric shapes, peace signs, nothing. We're going to scribble a doodle, nothing that we can recognize. This is not about physical sensations. Right now, please turn to the next slide for us. Now, we're going to find out right now what your emotion is, how you're feeling. Not a physical emotion, your emotion, how you feel. Are you mad right now? Are you sad? Are you happy? Are you fearful? Are you surprised? Are you disgusted? You're going to identify how you feel. Some people know right now exactly how they feel. Maybe they're anxious or excited. Let's turn to the next slide for a list of different emotions. There they are. If you don't know exactly how you're feeling right now, you might want to scan this list for an idea. And once you have identified how you're currently feeling, pick up those colored pencils and make for us a non-objective design, a doodle showing how you feel. Non-objective. We're going to give you about 2 minutes on this. So everybody's working right now. Pick up your colored pencils and doodle away.
Can you say maybe a few words what non-objective means?
Non-objective is a design that's line or color or shape. It's a doodle, just something that comes to your mind. It's not an image, an exact image of anything. No bunny rabbits, no teardrops, no flowers. Just scribble around, make a doodle, make little blobs of shapes that express how you're feeling.
And usually it's unique to you. When you doodle, you'll find that your doodle is completely unique to you and very different from somebody else's, even the next person. It's your doodle. It's just like your feeling.
So we don't want to dwell on this. You just get your emotion, pick up your colored pencils, and make that non-objective design that shows how you feel in this present moment. Now, once you have made that design, please label it right in that same rectangular box there under check-in. Are you curious? Are you tense? Label that emotion. And remember, not hungry or any kind of physical feeling.
The reason why we separate the physical sensation from the emotion is that physical sensations are felt in the body. So such as pain, fatigue, sleepy, jittery are kind of felt in the body. We can identify even which part of our bodies. But that's a gateway into how we are feeling. So we are asking you to get in touch with the feeling word that comes up for you when you finished scribbling or doodle. Any other questions?
Okay, let's move to the next slide. So what we've done here is we've made our brief check-in. There's no need to be an artist. You've used 1, 2, or 3 of your colored pencils. You've made an abstract, non-objective design with no recognizable images. And you've labeled your current feeling of how you feel right now. There is an example on this slide up in the corner there that shows a doodle.
Now we can ask for feedback. If somebody wants to raise their hand and show us what they're feeling and what their doodle looks like. Can you share? Raise your hand and share if somebody wants to share and tell us.
Okay, forgive me if my pronunciation is incorrect, but Shatya, would you like to share? Wrong? Oh, you're muted.
That was very close. It's Shatia.
Shatya, sorry.
Very good, very good, very good, very good. Oh, I can't get my paper. Okay. Can't see it.
And what is the feeling underneath that, Shatya?
Disgust.
Depressed.
Disgust.
Disgusted?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. We don't usually get disgusted at the right outside the gate. Hold on to that. And what we're going to do is after you finish your session today, we'll be doing a checkout. And what we're looking to see if the session on creative coping made a difference in the way you think about what you were experiencing as you started the session. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. And I see Chaz. Chaz, you have your hand up. Okay. And what does your doodle tell us about how you're feeling, Chaz?
Chaz said, sadly glad.
Sadly glad?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a very interesting one. There is some sadness and there's some gladness. Is that you're talking about a mixed feeling? Okay, got it. Let's hold on to that because that is so unique and so different from what Chacha was saying. She's disgusted. You're saying sad and glad at the same time. Anybody else, or shall we move on to the next part of our session?
We have, forgive me again, Atya, if you'd like to share. She said she will. They will share in the chat.
Yes, that's right, Atya. Sure if you can see that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we can see that. Thank you, Atya. And tell me, what did you label your feeling?
Hopeful-ish, like a bit hopeful.
Hurtful-ish. Okay, beautiful. We have 3 very different variations in feelings that have come up today, and you've each expressed it so uniquely. Remember, these are words that are commonly understood, but your scribble, your doodle is expressing it just the way you want to express it. I see Jane's hand up. Unmute yourself, Jane.
Hello. I did 2. I don't know if you can see this. The corner one properly. Well, I'm trying to work out how it's like. The top corner one.
Yeah.
Here.
And tell us how you're feeling.
Trapped.
Trapped?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, okay. So we have trapped, we have disgust, we have hurtish, we have glad, sad, right? Okay, so this is we're running the gamut of human capacity for feeling and emotion. There we go. What we're going to do now is just hold this inside you as we continue the session, because think of feelings as messages. They tell us that our needs are being met. They tell us that maybe we need to do something that needs are not being met. And maybe there's nothing we need to do. We're just happy the way we are. Let's leave it alone and just enjoy it. So think of feelings as messages. Moving on, we're going to take it away, NJ, to Georgia.
Yes. How many of you have ever heard or seen the work of Georgia O'Keeffe, artist Georgia O'Keeffe? Georgia O'Keeffe said, I found I could say things with color and shape that I couldn't say any other way, things I had no words for. Next slide, please. In art, we have what we call the elements: line, shape, space, color, value, and texture. As I ask you to do your doodle today, many of you started out with line. There's all kinds of lines. There's thick lines, thin lines, dotted lines, skipping lines. Shapes. There are many kinds of shapes. There are geometric shapes, and there are shapes that go all over the place, like an amoeba, bloop, 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 all over. And there's space in art. When we make paintings, there's the space called perspective. And there's also space like a donut. For example, the space in the center of the donut is called the negative, and around it is the positive. Next up is color. Color is Roy G. Biv, red, yellow, blue, and so on. Value is shading from dark to light and all the in-betweens. And texture. Texture is how something feels or looks like it feels. These are the elements of art. When Nidhi and I got together, she told me about the emotions, the 6 emotions. There are 6 elements of art, and let's see the next slide. There are 6 emotions: mad, sad, glad, fear, surprise, and disgust, which I had mentioned before. And what we have done through self-discovery through art, whenever possible, is to bring these emotions and elements together as we work together.
Next slide, please. Okay. Now that you've learned something about the emotions and the elements of art, we are going to combine some of these emotions and elements together and flesh out our thinking process. I want you to put on your listening ears, wake them up. It's 10 o'clock in the morning, wake up your listening ears. I'm going to call out 3 sentences, and I want you to listen very carefully for a common pattern or theme that you will hear running through these sentences. Ready? Here we go. Number 1. My son has to make the honor roll every year, or I have failed completely as a mother. Number 2. Hey, it's too bad you don't like what I say. It's my way or the highway. Number 3. There are no prizes for second place. Winner takes all. Now raise your hand and tell us if you have seen a common pattern running through these 3 sentences. I see Carol. Carol, what did you hear, Carol?
All or nothing thinking.
Yes, all or nothing thinking. I hear Jane. Jane, what did you hear?
Pressure or shame.
Say that again.
Pressure or shame.
Pressure or shame. Okay, so that's the feeling that comes out. But the common theme is all or none thinking. And I see Carol and Gordon. What did you hear, Carol?
I
I said mother from hell.
Mother from hell. Yes, yes. And we'll talk a little more about people who are black or white thinkers. Anybody else? Okay. All three of you have identified the common theme that runs through these statements that I just made. All or none thinking, either or thinking, and total success or total failure. What we're going to do now is think about what cognitive behavioral psychologists call this. They called it black or white thinking. Now, if you listen to the news today or on social media, you'll hear people say, oh my God, the country is so polarized. We are so divisive. Yes, polarized thinking is another way of saying the same thing because there are polar opposites, black or white, either or. Or another way I've heard it expressed is binary thinking. Binary means 0, 1. There's nothing in between. What we're going to do now is we're going to do a little visual exercise of what it's like to bring out this pattern of black or white thinking out of our brains and onto paper, because we are all susceptible to this, but we're looking at what it looks like on paper as a visual exercise. And Jay, take it away.
Okay. If we could have the next slide, please. You've got your paper in front of you. We're going to work in the box number 1 on the top, box number 1 next to check in. And what you're going to do is you're going to pick up your black colored pencil or a regular pencil. Let's have the next slide, please. And you're going to make a scribble, a quick scribble in that rectangle. Once you've made that quick scribble, I want you to pick out the 2 biggest shapes. One shape you're going to color in entirely black. The next biggest shape you're going to outline with a thick black line around that shape. And this just takes a few moments to do. Quick scribble, coloring in one of the big shapes, totally black, and outlining around the other biggest shape. Just your black colored pencil or a regular pencil. You're going to pick up your black colored pencil. You're going to make a quick scribble in the top rectangle next to your check in. You are then going to find one of the biggest shape, color it in black, and the next biggest shape to outline around that shape, leaving the center of it white. Okay, now that we've finished the visual exercise of just a simple scribble drawing in that rectangle, number 1, filling one shape in completely black and one shape heavily outlined in white. Now let's come to the thinking. How can we bring this visual exercise to the way we think? We can see black, we can clearly see white. This is what black or white thinking looks like in a person who's thinking in either or, all or none, or total success, total failure. All those other shapes in between, think of them as unexplored possibilities and unexplored options that are not even in your awareness, because an all or none thinking person can only think 2 ways, black or white. When you think of somebody who thinks this way,
Think of trying to live either on Mount Everest or deep in the ocean in the Mariana Trench. It's practically impossible to sustain life in these extremes. Similarly, a person who thinks only in black or white as a habit is living in the same place, in their heads, in their feelings, in their behaviors, in the same way. It's got to be all or none, it's got to be my way, or I'm a total failure if I'm not a complete success. Most often, the underlying issue here is perfectionism. People who think in this very rigid or extreme way hold very high idealistic standards. They are impossible to achieve. And as a result, when we fail ourselves and when we fail others or others fail us, or when the world thinks differently from the way we do, we get hurt, we become very judgmental, and we take offense at the world. The problem with this kind of thinking is that it's learned, and we can unlearn this. But somebody had mentioned shame and pressure. This comes from our childhood. This is not genetic. This is learned behavior. Somebody, a primary caregiver, may have told us, if you don't get all A's, you're a failure. Don't come to my house with a report card that shows a B or an F or a D. Similarly, if you've done something bad, you're a very bad person. It's not that you made a mistake, you're a very bad person. So we pick up these messages from childhood, from these adults who are taking care of us and growing us up. So we pick up these patterns and then we continue this into our adult life. And it really doesn't work for us. What does it do? Binary thinkers or all or none thinkers or people who think in black or white have no middle ground. What is the problem with black or white thinking, you might ask? Number one, it's very damaging to our physical and our mental health. Think of these athletes and ballet dancers who are so extreme in their practice and their discipline that by the time they're out of their field, they've got so many physical ailments. And then for the rest of their lives, they're crippled physically. Similarly, mentally, when we carry on in this way in black or white thinking, perfectionism, yes, we damage our mental health also because we're constantly telling ourselves, if I don't get this right, I'm a total failure. It disrupts relationships. Imagine you're in conflict with somebody and you say, it's my way or the highway. That's not very helpful. Instead, if you said, both of us are partially right. Tell me more about your view. That's much more helpful. What about a disadvantage at work? If you can't get along with your peers, if you can't get along at Clubhouse with the other members of your community, you're going to be shut out. What does and how can we then loosen up our thinking so that we can move from rigid thinking to flexible thinking? We're going to have NJ help us do another visual exercise. And this is purely visual, don't think too much, purely visual to bring out what happens in the middle. And we call this flexible thinking. Take it away, NJ.
Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. We've made our scribble on the top. Now on the bottom, right below the scribble we just made, I would like you to make another scribble. Very quickly, scribble it in. Find in that scribble your largest shape. Color that one in black. Find the next largest shape. Outline that in black colored pencil. And after you have done that, there's more work to be done. You've made your scribble, you found your largest area, you're coloring it in black. You found the next largest area, you're outlining it with black. And if we could see the next slide. There should be all kinds of other shapes within your scribble. You see on the slide, the big area colored in black, the next bigger area outlined with black that shows us white inside. And around it, all those other shapes that are colored in black with texture and pattern. This is an example of what yours should look similar to. Let's have the next slide. And to help you with some ideas for pattern, we're going to keep this slide up so that you can see it. And we're going to give you how many minutes?
About 5 to 10 minutes, maximum 10 minutes.
To work on this, to fill in those shapes on your scribble beside the big black and the big white with pattern and textures. Are there any questions?
All the shapes should be filled in. For now, we're just working with the various shapes.
We had someone ask to define pattern and textures.
You can see on the slide right here, those little circles and little stars put next to each other that fill in the shapes. That's pattern and texture.
Basically, it's a contrast to the white shape and the black shape. It's repeated. You can see the lines and the textures are repeated. The little starbursts are repeated. The little polka dots are repeated.
The lines, the dashes,
Yes.
they're all repeated and they fill up these miscellaneous shapes.
Now hold up your own piece. Take a look at it and see the contrast between the first rectangle with just black or white, and the second one with all the textures filled in the shapes around the black or white. We haven't discarded the black or white. We're keeping the black and white shapes, but we fill the other shapes with texture. Now I want you to think of this piece of artwork and tell me which one is more interesting to look at. Which one grabs your attention? Which one would, if this was hanging in a gallery, where would your attention go that you would hang out and say, okay, let me look at this a little more? Okay, I say Renee says yes to number 2. Thank you, Renee. This is an example of the visual exercise, right? Of thinking in just black or white terms to moving to flexible terms. Now, if we take this and think about what it looks like in our heads in terms of our thinking patterns, we can see that the first one has only 2 options. It's black or white, either or. However, in the second shape, second scribble, we see so many textures. What people who think in black or white or all or none ways just miss the point that we, other people, and human beings all over the world come in all kinds of shades of gray, multiple textures. We are nuanced, we are complex. The world is a complex situation. And if we look at the world only through the lens of black or white thinking, we are going to have trouble with ourselves, with relating to others and relating to the world. What do cognitive behavioral therapists tell us on how, if we are aware that, okay, this is not working for me and I really want to change the way I think, what can I do? Yes, it's kind of depressive thinking because you get negative feedback from inside of you, from other people, and the world outside. How do we change this? CBT therapists call one particular skill, it's called reframing. Reframing is a way to take a statement like I made in the beginning and change it so that it reflects what is reality really, what is more closer to reality rather than us holding our rigid patterns. The most important skill here is for us to look at our thought and say, is there any evidence or truth or accuracy in the way I'm thinking? And how do we flesh this difference out? We can separate our black or white thinking and move to flexible thinking by asking ourselves these 3 questions. Separate yourself from what you do to who you are. If you measure yourself on performance, my son's performance, his A+, his honor roll, that is what describes who I am. I'm certainly going to feel like a failure. He comes with a bad report card. But you can reframe this by saying, I'm a person with many talents and gifts. I don't depend on my son's performance for my self-worth. See suddenly how much more lighthearted you feel? And you've also snipped the connection between performance and self-worth. That is critical in flexible thinking. The second one is, if you say, it's my way or the highway, that's not going to resolve any conflict. Instead, being partially right, open and curious to what the other person has to say, helps the dialogue continue, and then you might find common ground. Because we come in shades of gray, we're not black or white, we come in multiple textures. Finally, you ask yourself, is there even one person who sees this situation, this challenging situation, differently? If you say yes, then you know you were thinking all or none, and you can change to flexible thinking. For instance, there are no prizes for second place, winner takes all. You can reframe this by saying, I know I gave it my best shot. I don't need the world's approval to tell me how well I've done. That's the reframe. Now suddenly you're thinking in multiple textures. It's not win or lose. It's win or learn. Thank you, Carol. So here we are. At this juncture, we recognize that we have black or white thinking as a habit. It's a pattern of the way we relate to ourselves, the way we relate to others, and the way we relate to the world. It's coming from some old stuff, some old message that we got in our brain. We are now adults. We can start thinking in much more flexible ways. So here we have rigid versus flexible. We have binary versus multiple. We have polarized thinking versus collaborative thinking. Which do you think really makes our lives work in this world? I'm going to leave that question to you because the choice is ultimately ours. That is the power we have now, the power to choose. Any questions at all about what you've seen up, what you've done on your piece of paper and what you're seeing on the screen? It'll be nice if we can share some of your contrasts. Can people hold up anybody hands, raise your hands and show us what you've done? Was it from black or white to flexible, to thinking in textures? Okay, Chaz, hold up your piece and let's see what you've done. Okay, I see many textures. Where's the black or white? Let me see the contrast. Oh, okay, and you've drawn a black or white figure and you've given us a change in your thinking with scribbles that have many colors and textures. Thank you, Chaz. Anybody else?
We also have Jane as well.
Okay, Jane, let's see. What does Jane have? Okay, let's see, Jane. Okay, hold up your black or white thinking. That's the black or white thinking. Okay, and where's the textures? Where have you filled in your shapes with many textures? Okay, so you filled in some of your shapes with many textures. How different is it from the pure black or white? Can you unmute and tell us? How different is the contrast?
Yeah. I think because there's, I didn't put very much, but because there's lots of little designs and I put lots of little lines up here, almost like things hanging down or little spikes really at the top here.
Mm-hmm.
So the difference is it has instead of just, I think that's the point really, it has different things on it instead of just black and white. It's
Yes.
more in between.
Yes, thank you.
But I think that's the question. How do we change from being mentally, how do we change from black and white in between?
Okay. Thank you,
When we
Jane.
talk about experience.
Yes. We have these old patterns of thinking that are hardwired. We're grooved in there. They're long, those pathways have been set there from the time we were children because these were messages we got. When we reframe, that's what cognitive behavioral therapists call reframing. You take a sentence that is black or white and you change it to shades of gray and you change it to multiple textures, multiple options. Remember the first one had only black or white and you had all those other shapes that had nothing in them? Those, think of them as unexplored possibilities. You were not aware that you had the capacity to think in shades of gray, to think in multiple ways. Now, with the help of a therapist, with the help of a trusted support person, you can say, am I the only one who sees it like this, or do you see it differently to any situation? And if they say, listen, I see this completely differently from the way you've been seeing it, then be open. Be open to this new perspective. So openness is one very, very important skill to start with. Open to awareness, open to another perspective, to another viewpoint. Is that helpful, Jane?
Yes, yes.
Yes, and the more you practice this, it doesn't come easy because the old pattern is so hardwired, but we can change this. What we know today is that when we change the patterns repeatedly of our thinking, we actually lay down new neural pathways in our brain. We don't go back to the old. The old one kind of loses its use and we start thinking new ways. Is this easy? No, it's not easy. It requires awareness, it requires choice, it requires support around you so that you can actually bounce off somebody and say, you know, I'm getting stuck over here. Help me with this. Show me some other options. But this exercise will be one way you can do it, because if you can number all those textured shapes as, okay, this is option 1, this is option 2, this is option 3, this is option 4. Now, suddenly you've moved from black or white, which is just 2 options, to multiple options. We've given you a visual way of thinking from rigid to flexible. Does that help you, Jane?
Yes, I like the way you said having multiple options. That's a really good way to describe it.
Yes, and this visual exercise is perfect for that. And Carol, you have your hand up.
Yes, hi.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
There we go. Very clear, very clear. You know, you've got a beautiful contrast between black and white in the first rectangle, and many textures. Look at, she's filled
And
in. She's
colors.
been at
I
work.
did colors too.
How was this for you, by the way? How was doing this exercise for you?
I like it very much. I was just discussing, my Hanai niece is here and she actually is a professional artist. So I was discussing neurolinguistics right now, which is what you're doing. Because there are three ways that we communicate with the world. You're either auditory, which I am, or visual, which I am not, or you're kinetic. And it tends to be like auditory, that's your major, kinetic, that's my minor, and visual is atrophied. So I loved when I did this creative coping class before, we did the poetry. And for me, that was just, I was so at home and it came so easily, the prose and all this kind of stuff, because I'm auditory. However, I appreciate, because when I'm working with clients and others and those who are grieving, and I'm trying to relate to them and get them to feel better or know themselves better through auditory means, that's almost as though I'm speaking a foreign language to them. So being able to communicate with them in a visual way like this is going to be helpful for me, for some people, because for me, the visual is atrophy.
Thank you. You know, Carol, that's what we found when NJ and I started working with my mental health consumers. Some of them had no words, like Georgia O'Keeffe said. She used visual to show what she had no words for. And the more we did that with our mental health consumers, the more they came out of their shell. What happened was, when they tapped into their imaginations, they slowly started learning vocabulary that would express what they were doing on the paper. It was amazing to see that progression happen.
Correct. And there's that you can even hear, I can hear, because I'm auditory, the words people use. They go, I don't see what you're saying. They don't say, I don't understand. They don't say, I hear you, but it's not coming through. They use words. They go, I can't get the big picture here. I don't see it. I don't see that happening. You know, it's like, to me, it's like giant posters they're holding up with these visual words. And I go, this is a visual person and I need to communicate with them in visual terms. So just using words like vision and sight and see helps them hear me.
Yes, thank you so much for that. Very encouraging how art can help us express ourselves more fully. We are much more full than just our words, right? We've got this whole part of our brains that where imagination resides. And once we tap into that, it's limitless. It's absolutely limitless. Shatia, you had your hand up.
Yeah. Okay, here's mine.
Okay, there we go again. Oh, look at those textures on her piece and the beautiful contrast between black or white and the flexible textures. Thank you. What would be very interesting, NJ, should they title their piece?
Oh, yes, title your piece, any title you want to. If you want to call it number 102, that's fine. Or if you want to call it my whatever, call it whatever.
You know, I paint and I draw. And,
What would you call it? Shatia, what would you call it?
mentally accepted.
Say that again.
Mentally accepted.
Mentally effective, yes, because you've taken the visual exercise and now you've changed the way you think, because you've translated your imagination into the thinking part of your brain. And that is effective. Thank you. Ooh, we couldn't have said that better. Anybody else?
We had Atia raise her hand in the chat.
Yes.
Yes, hello. I was just naming mine, sorry. You see the
Oh, there
difference?
we go. There we go. Very clear separation and contrast between the first rectangle and the second rectangle, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I've named it Moving Through Exposure, Living Through Exposure.
Oh. Yes. Okay. Anybody else would like to share? And as Alofa has said, you know, all of these pieces of art can be compiled into a booklet that Samaritan Counseling is going to produce for us once we are all done with the series. So hold on to your pieces, fill them out, finish your work, and upload them and send them to Alofa. We would love to see the product of this session as you have done it, and the contrast and the variety and the multiplicity of textures that will come out. Thank you.
Yes, we have a link that I'll share with you guys later. But one last thing in the chat, we had Marilyn ask, what is kinetic thinking?
So I put something there. It's Carol Ann. So auditory is pretty obvious. It's for people who like sounds like myself. Visual is obvious. It's for people who like sights. Kinetic is hands-on. It's textural. It's tactile.
Yes.
So your learning style, how do you learn best? You hear someone explain it, you see someone do it, or you do it alongside of them with your tactile experience?
Yes, and that's another way, NJ, we start off by saying that in the very beginning about different kinds of learners.
Yes.
And NJ, you want to say that?
Well, some people can see it, some people can hear it, some people can read it, but some people just need to get their hands around it and create.
Thank you.
Any other questions about what we did? We always end our session with a checkout. NJ, take it away.
Okay, the checkout is similar to the check-in the box, the lower box on the left-hand side of your paper where it says checkout. You are going to make a doodle of how you are currently feeling. So you want to take a breath, think about how you are currently feeling. This is an emotion. This is not how you feel physically, like I'm hungry or I have a headache, but how you're feeling emotionally. I'm happy, I feel satisfied, whatever it is. You pick up 1, 2, or 3 colored pencils, and you are going to make a doodle using line, shape, color, texture, space, value, any or all of those art elements. Make that doodle to show how you're feeling right now. This is just a brief check out.
We don't have to use the same colors. We don't have to use the same scribble. It's all up to you.
No hearts, flowers, no rainbows, no bunny rabbits. This is just pure art elements, color, line, shape, texture, value, space. Go for it. Once you're done, label that feeling that you have shown us.
And you're not thinking about this. You're going directly from your feelings to your imagination to paper and with a color pencil. So don't think too much. Where you start thinking is when you have to, you've already gotten in touch with how you're feeling. So you know how you're feeling. And then you're scribbling it out, a doodle that tells us how you're feeling. Okay, and you've labeled it. Let's get some feedback to see how you are doing. Let me call on Jane. Jane, are you done? Because you had given us feedback on how you came in, right? What was your check-in? What was your check-in? Can you unmute? Yes. Now tell us, how did you label your check-in?
Trapped.
Yes, and how is checkout?
Well, I put at the bottom here, so I'm not sure what you can actually see. I put excitement.
Okay, wow, that is a huge contrast, right?
Yes, it's very different. I don't know what you can see. I've got this weird background, so it keeps showing me my background, and then at the same time as what I'm holding up, so I can't really. What I'm reflection of me is kind of sort of switching between my background and what I'm holding up, so I'm not too sure what you can see.
Yes, that's what happens when you have a video, a background setting that's not blurred or just you. Okay, so Jane, thank you. You went from one extreme to another feeling, completely different feeling. And all within the space of 1 hour with just you doing what you had to do. We gave you some instructions, but the work was done by you. Like Shatea said earlier, mentally effective. Something switched in your brain during this time that you did the artwork. So Shatea, tell us how you came, because you also had told us how you were checking in, and then what we'd like to know how you're checking out. Where is, I don't see her on the screen. Is she
I
on the
think
screen?
Shatia stepped out.
Oh.
We did have Chaz as well, who
Yes,
showed us
yes.
their
So
check.
Chaz, tell us, what did you check in? How did you check in, Chaz? What was the word you used for check-in?
Sadly glad.
Sadly glad. Can you hear me now?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay, sadly glad was my check-in.
Yes.
And I'm with my checkout. I'm ready.
Thank you. You're ready. What are you ready for?
I'm ready to actually have unexplored possibilities fleshed out. And share those unexplored possibilities with whomever I meet.
Thank you. Thank you. You're going to be looking at yourself and other people with open eyes, right? Differently.
Well, hopefully I can keep them open. Sometimes they close again.
It happens to all of us. It happens to the best of us. It's just being aware. Somebody else said checked in, irritated, and now feeling suspended in water. That was Nadia.
Oh.
Thank you, Nadia. And then there was apprehensive, check-in, and checking out, appreciative. Yes.
Yes.
Check-in, anxious, checking out, still anxious but free. Help us with that. Marilyn, I think you said you checked in. Oh, check in, anxious and fear. Check out, still anxious, but feeling free. Thank you. So you're able to hold both. Yes, you still have anxiety, but you're freer than you were when you checked in. And it was just this little visual exercise that we gave you to expand your thinking. Thank you. Is there anybody else?
I have kind of a question. Alofa, can you tell me, is there a meaning? What your name means? I'm just curious.
Oh, yes. My name is the Samoan word for love.
Oh, okay. So it's like aloha and like talofa, but it's alofa. Okay, thank you.
Exactly. And we did have a few more in the chat. We had Atya say that they checked in hopeful-ish, checked out excited, another checked in kind of unfocused, mild, sad. Carol checked out open to possibilities.
Whoa, yes. That's all, because now you have choice, right? You're at the crossroads here. Where we're leaving you today is at the crossroads. You have all this option to choose. Love all your emotional transformations. Thank you. Thank you. Anything else? Final thoughts? We thank you so much. NJ and I thank you so much for what you came in, didn't know what you were going to experience. You were open to all these, whatever unfolded. Thank you for being open to what unfolded as you've enriched us and you've enriched yourselves. Thank you very much. Thanks, Alofa. Thanks, Anita.
And remember, the arts are medicine.
Yes, the arts are medicine. You can always go back to the arts and they've never failed you, never fails. Yes.
Thank you, Nidhi and NJ, and thank you all for joining us for the July session of the Creative Coping Summer Series.
Thank you.
Before signing off, I have a few quick things to review. I've just put 3 links in the chat. The first link is submitting the poetry you wrote today, the drawing, the drawing that you created today, and we ask that you complete the intellectual property consent form. Next, you'll find the link for the survey. Please go ahead and click on that and fill out the survey now. It's not long and it'll help us make the next workshop better. And speaking of the next workshop, the final link you will find in the chat will take you back to our Eventbrite registration page. We will be hosting another creative coping session next month on August 6th at the same time, 10 a.m. And if you haven't done so already, please go and register. We'll be writing odes with the intention of processing emotions. These links have also been sent to you via email. And if you'd like to revisit this workshop or recommend it to a friend who couldn't attend, you can find the playback of this live stream on NAMI's Facebook page, and you'll be able to find it on Samaritan Counseling Center's YouTube page in about a week or two. But if you have any questions, feel free to email us or visit our websites. And thank you all again.